Chris!
Heath.
Should we be on TikTok already?
You know, TikTok is one of those platforms where I know it's popular, I just don't really know what it's about.
Of course you do. You were around for the Vine.
Yeah, I was around for...
You're the most prolific Viner I know.
That is a false statement. No, I have never even downloaded Vine. I have seen maybe 1 to 2 Vine compilations in my day.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
it.
Those kept us through the dark times of late 2019. No, when was that?
Earlier, I think.
So for the folks at home, there was a time in which Vine compilations ruled over all. It was like early 2019, maybe. It was all of these YouTube videos that were like vines to wet my whistle or like vines that float my boat ad nauseum. And they were all sort of the same vines, but they subsisted because people missed it so much. And that's why TikTok is so popular now, is because it's like the same sort of thing. It's just, I don't think there's a 6-second cap like there was for Vine. Anyway, I got sent a TikTok last night. And
what?
Yeah, just from like a friend from Florida who wanted to catch up. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I don't want to have to learn another social media, but that's very boomer of me, isn't it? So what do we do? Do we just stick with what we're doing, or I want your thoughts.
My reluctance would be opening up yet another account and tying it to my email address. You can only have so many social media accounts before one gets hacked and then suddenly your email is compromised. That would be my concern.
I'm not worried about my VPN failing.
I see. So we're both reluctant to jump into TikTok, but for different reasons, it seems. But this is not a TikTok podcast.
It's not?
This is a video game podcast. It's called Mobius Tubes. This is episode 37. It's being recorded on April 4th, 2020. And I'm happy to be... How are you holding up, Heath? We don't talk as much as we should outside of recording these episodes, so give me your status report.
It's good. I am able to sneak out of my room and down to the kitchen and then back up into my room without any of the guards noticing.
There are guards patrolling your living quarters?
Yeah. So I'm living at home. As I've mentioned, I escaped New York because there was no chance I'd be able to go in or out had I been down there last month.
New York City, yeah.
Yeah. So I've been living at home. And yeah, I've sort of discovered ways of getting what I need discreetly.
Gotcha. I guess you're trying to be the least amount of a nuisance as possible.
Yeah, before I get evicted.
To contrast that, cue some feelings of guilt. At least 3 weeks into this quarantine, I'm kind of having the time of my life over here. I've got some extra time because I've cut out an hour of driving I used to do daily. Working from home is somewhat more relaxing, at least I feel that way. I've got a daily walk I'm looking forward to refresh myself. I'm playing so many video games, and all of the feelings of FOMO, or fear of missing out, that might normally creep into my head when I'm spending all my time playing video games have all evaporated because there's almost literally no alternative to do at this point, which just lets me really focus in on the games and even enjoy them some more.
Missing out on social experiences, right? Like,
yeah.
I ought to be at the park where the get-together is.
Normally, there's a whole world full of possibilities I could be exploring, but not so much right now. So, yeah, all things considered, at least for now, I'm having a pretty good time.
Well, I'm happy to hear it. Should I bring the damper on things then?
Yeah, you need to bring my mood down. It's disproportionately high right now.
Yeah. So I think we're going to be in stark disagreement about one of your pastimes you've been delighting in.
Excellent. Yes, I can't wait.
I'm going to start with the bit I was talking about. Okay. Chris.
Hey.
I have 10 games in front of me. And I just want you to tell me, they're all open world games. How long do you think it takes to walk across the map in these games?
Ooh, okay. So from corner to corner, no running, no vehicles, you just walk across.
Yeah, just walk. All of these are walking speed.
All right, I'm ready to hit you with my best guesses.
All right, one that might still be fresh in your memory, Red Dead Redemption 2.
As this game goes on, maybe my guesses will get better as I get like a point of reference, but just off the cuff, I'm going to say Red Dead Redemption 2 will take you 40 minutes to walk across.
It's going to be 3 hours, according to like two sources I watched.
Okay. I believe it. Yeah, I just did not have any kind of baseline. So
Well, yeah,
3 hours.
You have to think.
Wow.
The cowpoke walking speed is very slow.
That's right.
I mean, you rarely ever walk in that game, but that's to take into account. It's only a 16-minute ride on horseback.
That really cuts it down.
Mm-hmm.
And if during your walk you ever were to stumble across your camp, that would add an extra hour right there. Because your pace slows down even more.
Right.
To a glacial crawl.
Right. I should amend that. That was about 3 hours if you follow the roads and there is no swimming.
Okay.
So that might change things.
What's next, Heath?
GTA 5, another Rockstar game.
I've got to assume that will be less time. I'm going to say that's a measly 1 hour, 10 minutes.
It's actually a 2-hour walk.
Okay. So it was lower, but I undercut it too much.
Now, Skyrim.
Ooh, okay. Skyrim. In my head, it's been so long since I've played Skyrim, but it feels so massive. But it is also, a 2011 game, so maybe map sizes were smaller back then. I'm going to say it takes 90 minutes to cross Skyrim.
Closer. 2 hours and 10 minutes. All right, The Witcher 3.
That's a big one.
Granted, The Witcher 3 is not like an open world. You visit other places.
Okay, yeah.
So this video took into account going across the longest tangent from area to area and added those together.
Okay, so probably excluding the island chain of Skellige. Probably just the continent.
I think he included the chain.
He included the chain?
I think he included the chain.
This one's a little ambiguous. I'm just going to say 2 hours and 50 minutes.
Ooh, a little less than that. 1 hour 55.
Wow, okay. I finally overshot it. As you can see, I am not improving on my guesses here.
Horizon Zero Dawn.
Horizon Zero Dawn. Let's just call that an even 2 hours.
Oh, much less. 1 hour 17. L.A. Noire.
That one's got to be small, right? That's like 30 minutes.
2 hours and 48 minutes. Granted, it's another Rockstar game. Rockstar makes your character walk at the pace of a snail.
I've never played L.A. Noire. Wow, okay. That's a big open world,
It's big, and it was like 360 era.
Dang.
Mad Max.
Ooh, that desert, it's so sparsely populated. It's got to be big, especially because that game, its whole core conceit is it's like vehicular combat. So they assume you're in a vehicle at all times. So if you walk across that, it's got to be huge. I'm going to say 3 hours and 20 minutes.
Exactly. On the dot. Oh my gosh.
For real?
Yes. A 3 hour and 20 minute walk. Only an 8-minute drive.
I've revealed to all our listeners that I'm actually a Mad Max expert. And all these other games, I don't know anything about them.
Very good. Yeah, you redeemed anything that was said in this bit. Rocket League.
So just quote unquote walking across one of the courts
across the map. Yeah. How long does it take?
20 seconds.
9 seconds. Very close.
Okay.
All right. Very good. Honorable mention to Steep, that skiing game that takes 9 hours to walk across. Granted, that's due to the hills and valleys you have to do. The point of this bit, Chris, is even that 9-hour walk you have to do in steep pales in comparison to how much I am about to walk back my praise of Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Let's go. Okay.
Wow.
All right. Because last episode, I was like, oh, this is great. It's not busy work at all. You know, I love the bounty hunters and the combat. Yeah, it's okay. No, I uninstalled Assassin's Creed.
Holy cow.
Get it out of here.
So this is below Arkham Knight in your eyes.
It's bad. Arkham Knight is fantastic compared to this.
Wow. All right. You're right. We will have contradicting opinions here. I have a question, though. Did you look up how long it takes to cross the map of Assassin's Creed Odyssey?
I did. It's 2 hours and 20 minutes with swimming.
Okay. I actually thought it would be longer than that.
His walk speed's pretty good. He's got some kick in his step. Or her.
Or her. Yeah, maybe this is the core problem, Heath. I'm loving Cassandra, but you're playing as Alexios.
Well, spoilers. I've met her.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I definitely led the conversation last week. Why don't you kick us off with Assassin's Creed Odyssey talk this week, Heath?
I will. Real quick. Yes, you're right. It is cool how they integrate the two characters in the same story despite your protagonist selection. I think she is much better cast as the villain of your story.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I disagree with that.
I like how she's the big bad. It makes more sense to me than you play as the girl and he's the big bad.
I have a question. What is Cassandra's name as the big bad?
Oh, it's Deimos.
Okay, so that's constant.
Yeah.
They call Alexios Deimos as
It's
well.
ambiguous, yeah. Chris, Odyssey, and it's so apt that you compared it to Arkham Knight from the get-go. What are my problems with Arkham Knight? It takes the Batman feel and makes it an afterthought. You are a race car driver, demolition derby, pinball action Batman. In this game, being an assassin is given an afterthought. You are like gladiator, foot soldier. I mean, the sailing part is true to Black Flag, so I won't knock it down there. But oh my gosh, okay, let me just go over the pros of Assassin's Creed Odyssey. There was a fight that broke out in a hunter's camp, and I'm fighting these hunters, and a fire arrow hits me and lights me on fire. And you are supposed to do a roll to extinguish the flames. I roll into a thatch wall, and when I do that, the thatch wall goes up in flames. So that's cool. That's like Gary's mod physics going, but that's a Half-Life Alyx. Am I right?
Yeah, the dynamic element of fire is pretty cool.
Yeah,
definitely.
That is my only pro. Oh my God. Have you tried fighting sharks in this game?
I avoid it whenever possible.
It's the most apt comparison ever. What you do is you dive down, and thank God actually it's a detriment that your lung capacity is so great because that just extenuates the experience. You dive down, and then your spidey sense, your combat sort of screen fringes start coming on because a shark has locked onto you. But good luck trying to see where he's coming from. I guess that's more true to actual shark combat. You wouldn't know where he's coming from, but oh my God, Chris, they'll bite your arm and go through this 5-second animation of he's got me, and then like a fifth of your health will go down. I didn't know, when I first encountered shark combat, I was picking up my arrow for this submerged ruin. So I was atop a pillar, and I was just picking these guys off. It was so easy. And then I go to the middle of the ocean when you first have to leave Krikonos or whatever. I haven't played the game in days, so I forgot all the places and the characters. But you have to find El Pinor. Maybe I haven't forgotten all of them. So you sail across, and then Poseidon's crotch is in the bottom of the seafloor. You got to raid it for loot, and then sharks show up, and all it expects you to do is swing your sword at like the right moment when the shark is coming by, and you'll do a damage pip. And oh my god, your lung capacity allows it for it to be like a 3-minute encounter of just the most literally waterlogged swings at these sharks that are taking their sweet time perusing and waiting for like that moment to chomp, but you get them. And it is the least fulfilling interaction in a video game I've had in a long time. And I remember I'm harkened back to the Stanley Parable ending where you have to press the button to keep the baby from walking into the fire.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll say this. The fighting the shark thing is something that I could only care to do once. I had to do it 3 times. And it's astonishing that they feel the need to supplement this game in a way that totally diminishes I'm blending into crowds. I'm sort of acting covert, subterfuge. Oh my God, where's my notes? I wrote down how many hours it took until I was expected to blend into a crowd, a hallmark of the original games. I didn't blend in until like 7 hours in. We're done here. Oh my gosh. I've many more cons, but enter in.
Okay, here's what I have to say, Heath. So I've killed 1 shark, and after that experience, I agree with you. I thought that was pretty lame. However, you make it sound as if fighting sharks is a core component of this game. I have spent maybe 5 minutes total around sharks in my 50 hours played. It is barely even a footnote in the experience. I don't know why you spent so much time ripping apart the terrible shark combat, because for the most part, you can just ignore it.
Fair enough. Okay, maybe I'm weighing in too heavily on that.
If I may, how many hours did you give Assassin's Creed Odyssey before you hit uninstall?
11.
Okay. Now, I'm not going to try to talk you back into it. It sounds like it is not for you. Yeah. And that's totally fine.
Before people start tuning out, I'm going to do real quick. I do not recommend this game under any circumstances, quarantine or not. You have much better uses of your time. It's insulting how bad this game is.
Holy cow. Okay. Let me try to temper some of Heath's criticisms. On the one hand, you were bringing up how this is a poor Assassin's Creed game and how the core aspects of the franchise where blending into crowds and stuff is given a far back seat to this melee-focused combat. To that, I would say, yeah, I guess it's not bothering me so much just because I'm not this die-hard Assassin's Creed fan. I have played a bunch of the games, but the integrity of the series is not something I prioritize. I kind of just assess each new entry in the franchise on its own merit and don't necessarily care how Assassin's Creed-y it feels. And here's one thing I'll point out, though. You say you don't really feel like an assassin. You're not. They haven't even mentioned the Assassins or the Templars. You're not in that organization. You're just a mercenary. It's almost tangentially related to Assassin's Creed, which is kind of funny for a mainline entry. Are you picking up what I'm putting down?
You could see my face I understand. And I'm going to make the same thing is like, what if you gave Geralt a gun? Or, just kind of like, what if they made Geralt do like Nathan Drake level Tomb Raidy kind of, swashbuckling? You'd be like, what the heck is this? It's so untrue. I'm calling them like bastard games. They are games that are so divorced from what the series is supposed to be. Arkham Knight fits in this. Assassin's Creed Odyssey fits in this. Tell me that Origins is far better than what I experienced here.
I think you would enjoy Origins about 15% more. So you'd probably still not like it. It is more Assassin's Creed-y, but still much closer to the Odyssey end of the spectrum than the Ezio end of the spectrum.
Ooh. And that's something that I took for granted as Ezio. Chris, this should not come as like a point of contention, but I should be able to assassinate anyone I want with the blade. You know what I'm trying to say? I don't want to have to obey level restrictions. If there's like a grunt in a granted higher level fort, they shouldn't be able to take a knife to the jugular and be like, Mistios. Oh, you know what my other joke was for this bit?
What?
Regardless of which character you pick, most of the characters in the game call you Mistios, which is Greek for bounty hunter, I think, right?
Yeah, or mercenary.
It's funny, though, because the only thing that I miss is actual good gameplay. So let's talk about it. Chris, there's a recruiting aspect of this game, right? You can go up to random enemies, and instead of assassinating them, which is actually really cumbersome, and it shouldn't be. It should be like the most straightforward thing ever. You can
cumbersome because they don't immediately die all the time.
Because I gotta do like arithmetic and see like, is this knife to the throat actually gonna kill him, or do like 75% of his health, and then I gotta do a combat sequence. Oh my god! So you can instead click in the left thumbstick. I'm using a controller, by the way, and that'll knock him out. And then you can reach your hand and be like, my crew set sail. You better be on my boat. And then they'll join your crew. Chris, the recruitment animation takes up a third of the screen. Like this much, if you could see my hand. It's just like,
I can see it.
It recruited Fabinos. Every time. Because you know like level ups, right?
Sure.
A level up is a momentous occasion. It happens once every like hour to 90 minutes, depending on how much experience you're getting. And so you would designate that much screen real estate when it comes to important like quest unlocked, find your family's history, or like, oh, you can finally, Icarnos, your bird, can swoop down and pick men out of the sky. You would designate something as high priority as that to like this much of the screen. When you recruit just these schmucks, any Yahoo that you knock out, it displays in as much fanfare on the screen. Meanwhile, I'm trying to have a stealth encounter and look at the guys that could see me like recruiting this guy, making sure that the guard doesn't turn around, and I have to see through this like recruited Korikolikos, and it's like why? What are we doing here? We are messing up the formula, the Krabby Patty formula that is Assassin's Creed. It's baffling, Chris. Also, did you ever hunt down one of the bounty hunter guys? His name starts with like an H-Y, but you got to treat it silently. Like, Ilios. I don't know. Anyway, so he's at this like Artemis temple, and he lays down, because I wait for him to, in his walking pattern, he lays down on a rug. And I'm like, oh, this is my chance. I go up to him to do like the silent attack. I don't know if this is a bug, but the animation is accompanied with no shink sound effect. It's just like a silent motion. A big 3000 appears over their head, and then they get up and fight you. You know the games that were created lovingly? You could imagine that attachment if it's like, oh, someone put their heart into this. Any like auteur games that you can think of. This is the most unloved game I've ever put my hands on. Even QWOP has more heart to it.
It definitely feels like designed by committee. Just capture all the gamer trends, progression systems, loot-based grinding stuff.
Chris, I am flying through sandals before I even get the chance to put them on.
Because you're just picking up so many versions of better sandals?
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying, Heath. Your
Wait,
nitpicks.
I got another thing.
Oh yeah, by all means.
Okay, so Icarus, your bird, is
Yeah.
able to spot enemies through mountains. It'll say you have an unmarked target nearby. Press up on the D-pad, and then you'll hear like squaw, and then you'll go up into bird vision, and it'll sort of like guide you, like hit marker style, where there is the treasure, and there is El Pinor. But it's like through a mountain. Icarus can see buried treasure deep in a ancient Greek dungeon.
Yes. Yeah.
I sprint into the battlefield, and then I'll hide in a bush, look in his vision, and it'll just be like pop, 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 pop. All of these hit markers. He's popcornos. That's what I'm calling him.
That is a fair statement. I can't really contest anything you've said, Heath. There's nothing I disagree with. It's just a matter of it hasn't really bothered me.
Remember in Assassin's Creed 3, where you'd be walking through Philadelphia or Boston, and a person would bump into you, like hit your shoulder, and the money sound effect would play, and you would put two and two together and be like, he just robbed me, and he starts running around a corner, and you're like, hey, stop, and you got to do this fun chase sequence around the rooftops of colonial America and knock this guy down. And it's like, oh wow, what an emergent moment, what a fun life sim-me moment. And in this game, all I'm doing is waiting for this cultist to get close enough to do the assassination. Oh, whoops. He was an arbitrary level above me, and that means that his throat is much thicker than my blade, so now I gotta Spartan kick him until he flops over. Chris, I'm done. Odyssey is to Assassin's Creed as Justice League is to Avengers. For all of our movie buffs out there, it is just laughably somebody trying to like, oh, these are the characters you know and love without any care. Just throwing it on the screen and be like, yeah, have fun. Alexios is like, oh, what's the villain from Justice League? I always forget his name. It's like Mistletoe or something. Steppenwolf. Remember that? You don't know characters now.
No. Wow. Yeah. What? I have to praise your performance there, Heath. Only I can see you on the webcam right now, but your arms were flailing. You were passionate about how much you despise this game.
And my passion, I have a misplaced appreciation for heads-up displays and design elements that the layperson's going to be like, why does he care that it takes up a third of the screen? Granted, by hour 11, you are so done with it.
Yeah. I will say, I'll admit, this is kind of a guilty pleasure game for me. I've called it comfort food before, and by that I mean it's kind of like the junk food of gaming. To me, this game feels like an all-you-can-eat buffet, and there's only one entree at the buffet, so if you don't like it, you're gonna hate the game. For me, I happen to like the dish Assassin's Creed Odyssey is serving me.
Yeah, but like think of every year you have steak in the form of Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. Lobster in the form of Assassin's Creed Revelations. A tuna fish sandwich. Okay, yeah, Assassin's Creed 3. Beef Wellington in the form of Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. And then you get to this, and this is like cream of wheat, Chris. It is so tasteless. Open your email inbox and tell me what I sent you. We're not done. This is the cream of the crop.
Oh, all right. I'm going to my email.
I am itching with anticipation.
Email subject line is Ass Creed.
So,
and I've got several screenshots.
Download those screenshots. They're pretty big. I took them from my PC. So I'll stall for you. Assassin's Creed has added a story creator for fans to make their own historical storylines in an effort to protract this gameplay loop even further. If you weren't put off by Ubisoft's own creation. Maybe you'll enjoy this mission. What's the first one? It's like epic battle, win big, XP.
Yeah, I'm looking at these. Obviously, a user titled the name of this quest. Epic battle, tons of exclamation marks, weird Arabic characters thrown in there for no apparent reason.
It is the most Ludo it has ever been Dissonant.
And then some of the character dialogue here is amazing.
What's his name, according to the subtitles?
His name is Archidemos.
Okay, yeah. And what do the subtitles say that he's saying?
Here, you will have to fight in a magnificent battle to get your money.
And look at his facial expression. He's just like, hey, right?
He's got like a half grin on his face.
Yeah.
His next line is, so kill, 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 and get tons of money and XP. 2 exclamation marks. All caps on tons and money, by the way. So the quest begins. It's called So Where Is the Money? That's the name of the quest.
No, that was like the second quest in the quest line. So you first go to this marker that's epic battle win big, right? It's
Yes.
And you go through this like slideshow of these subtitles, and then it's like quest complete, and then it's like XP, and then the marker for what's the second one? It's like,
so where is the money?
Where's the money? And that's 200 meters that way. And I go, no, and I move on. But like, I took some screenshots of some other funny story creator missions.
Yeah. This next one, it's also Archidemos saying this. He says, one more thing. The story, Crazy Family, just got a massive update. All the bugs have been fixed. New missions have been added. And most importantly, more action.
So, oh my God.
Yeah, I can see how this seems pretty cancerous. On the one hand, it's kind of amazing that Ubisoft put user-created quest markers, just dotted the landscape with them, which foreseeably, if these were actually any good, would add to the content of the game just massively. You could never finish it. But yeah, they don't seem like they put a lot of quality assurance behind these.
Oh, there was one more pro.
Yeah.
I set the game down. Sorry, that itself is not the pro. But there was a cool idle animation when you don't touch anything. Your bird will land on your arm, and the camera will like zoom in, and you'll
stroke the bird.
Yeah, tend the animal, and that's like a cool
Icaros.
Yeah.
So I had prepared some stuff about praising this game's cultist system or some of the later game skills you unlock.
Chris, that was, oh my God, you're setting me off again. Okay, so the game is like, oh, did you know there's like this secret society? Forget Sparta and Athens. It's basically, did you ever watch Codename Kids Next Door?
I sure did.
Yeah, so wasn't there an arc at the very end where there's a splinter cell within the kids and that they're trying to help the adults win kind of thing? This is like that, with the exception of, upon closer examination, all of the cultists are just would-be bad guys that I can't look at a character and think that's a cultist versus any other bounty hunter target or mercenary who would be hunting you. Your thoughts?
I enjoy planning out my next cult assassination. So there's a whole screen dedicated to it in your start menu. The cult screen, where there's the huge snaking family tree detailing the cult hierarchy and how the different members rank and how much info you have about each of their identities. Some of them you'll know right off the bat, and you can mark them on your map. Some, there's a big question mark. You don't know anything yet. And some are in this ambiguous middle state where it'll tell you where there are clues you can hunt down to uncover more information. For example, one cultist, I didn't know where they were or who they are, but I had a clue that they had been hiding out in a wolf den in the Focus region. So I I went on a little search, just tramping around Focus, looking for wolf dens. I eventually
Focus
find
spelled
one.
Phokis.
That's right. I don't know if I'm quite pronouncing that correctly, but yeah, you spelled it right. I do find the wolf den. I get the clue. I narrow down the area the cultists could be in. So then when I do eventually go assassinate them, which has a nice reward behind it because it gives you a bunch of XP and a golden item, which is super valuable, that arc leading up to it gives me more, it feels more meaningful to hunt down a cultist who wasn't just immediately available for you to find. You had to put in a little bit of legwork, a little bit of detective work to make it available. And that whole hunting down the cultist arc, I get a kick out of it. I especially like how if you hunt down all of a sage's underlings, sage is like an upper ranked cultist, upon killing all of the underlings, each one gives you a clue until you have all 5 clues, which will let you pinpoint the sage. I like the cultist system. I think it's cool. It feels the most assassin-y part of Assassin's Creed Odyssey. At least that's the way I feel.
Okay. Maybe. I mean, I wiped it from my computer, but maybe I got out too soon. When you say it like that, it is the most assassin-y part. Okay. Okay. That doesn't detract from the fact that I saw in one of the spiderweb chains for the cultists, there was like a big dude who I knew would be like any other bounty hunter combat Spartan kick encounter, regardless of the amount of sleuthing I do.
Some of them definitely have more development put into them than others. Some will have an entire branching quest line kind of dedicated to finding out the identity of this cultist. And in one instance, I found a guy, he was a slaver. He was a cult member, and you would find him, he kind of just unveils himself to you. He says, yeah, I'm in the cult. I know who you are. But he tries to strike a deal with you. And you can accept the deal and just walk away. Our conversation ended. He was standing there. Didn't have to initiate combat with him or anything. But I turned around and just killed him immediately and got the cultist defeated emblem blazoned across my screen. It was cool. Unfortunately, doing that, there was like a guy I was trying to help and free from his bonds of servitude. I'm pretty sure he's now just still a slave because I opted to kill his master immediately. He didn't process the paperwork.
Damn. Okay.
So yeah.
All right. That does sound... that sounds up my alley. But then there's no denying that Assassin's Creed Odyssey is closer to Rise than it is Assassin's Creed.
Wow. Okay.
Rise with a Y. You know what I'm talking about? You can't deny that.
All right, this is all starting to make sense because that is another guilty pleasure game of mine that I quite enjoyed. Despite the fact it's like a 6 out of 10 on a good day. All right, my hot tips for you, Heath, would be stop fighting sharks, focus on the cultists, and grab the skill in the assassin's tree that if you hold down A to do an assassinate, you can get it to do double or triple assassinate damage, which will basically one-shot anyone.
I did, yeah, the good old concentrate button. I thought I did that. Like, you unlock it like in the single-digit levels, and then once you hit 16...
This is a more advanced skill in Assassins. There's one that just like passively boosts your assassin damage. This one, you have to like actually hold A for like a whole second before you do the assassination, but it'll double or triple your entire damage output, which is pretty good. It'll one-shot even like golden enemies that have like a golden emblem around their level requirement.
Gosh, you are...
That said, I feel like this game, more so than any other Assassin's Creed game, enemy health feels too spongy, I think, especially in the beginning. these battles, the melee combat, which you feel is mediocre, and I'm partially inclined to agree with you, it drags on too long. I feel like to preserve the difficulty and just like speed the process along, you should have less health, enemies should have less health. Just make it more of a glass cannon situation, because you'll go through the same repeating counter, dodge, bash, bash, bash animation loop 3 or 4 times before even like lower level enemies will go down. I'm starting to mitigate that and speed it up by getting some like really powerful skills. So there's a cool sense of progression there when you finally do push past this really slow combat, and it becomes more breezy and easy. So the progression there does feel nice, but for too long in the early game, it is a slog to get through. I agree with you there.
Does like Devil May Cry have this much dependence on abilities or any other character action? Like, what makes good combat? I like Batman.
I see. What makes good combat? Man, that's a philosophical question.
Remember
right there.
in Batman where you'd go through like the first 4 hours of just mashing X and then the occasional Y to counter. And then later in the game, these guys get stun batons, where if you just willy-nilly try to punch the stun baton guy, you'll get shocked and lose your combo.
Yeah, it's kind of like a puzzle.
You have to like double tap A to fly over top of them and get them into a stumble and then strike them from behind. And every time I punched a baton guy head on, I was like, oh, how foolish of me. Every time in this game, when an unblockable attack, like the red kind from an enemy, or anytime like I get poisoned, I feel like, well, I tried. Because I kept like mashing the attack button and getting locked into animations when the unblockable came, so I couldn't like cancel out of it.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. We've spent a lot of time covering Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
I freaking held up the feather to it to bring up an Origins reference.
Yeah, wow.
Hey.
Nice. I feel like we've probably talked about it enough for today.
Yeah, I gotta move on.
I'm going to continue playing it. You will not be, presumably.
I mean, unless I can get a copy of where you are in the game. Are you level 15 now or 25?
Yeah, so here's the part where I've been playing a lot. I'm level 34.
Oh my god.
And I've played the game for 50 hours.
Oh my god.
Anyway, I have to get a drink of water. I'll be back. Hello.
Yes.
We're done with AC talk now, right?
Oh, are you talking about that Animal Crossing? Yo, you walked right into it. Okay, so I got 5 total neighbors, and my residence services has been upgraded into a building. So we got Isabel and we got Tom Nook. I'm repaying off my second house loan. What I'm going to do, I'm going to not make any loan payments. I'm going to save all of my bells and invest into the stock market. That's STALK because it's turnip based. And what you do is you buy turnips on Sunday, and then you got to sell them off over the next 7 days, or else they'll expire, literally. They'll rot. And what you do is you make your money that way, and you also like sell some of the fruit that I've taken from other people's islands. Like Bailey's Island has cherries. I'm making bank off of those cherries, dog. And then I'm gonna pay off my house loan, and I'm going to funnel all of my money into more construction. I only have 1 bridge, and then I gotta get some more staircases up to like the higher areas. I'm gonna try to relegate residential to like the upper northeast side of the island, and then save like this whole peninsula in the middle for like my really long driveway. It's gonna look so good. This will take me like a couple months, especially because the Easter event's going on right now, so there's fewer iron nuggets coming out of rocks, so that's gonna slow down my construction. But hopefully the bonus you get from constructing all of the bunny day egg items will help further my goals in AC.
So it's fair to say you're enjoying your time with Animal Crossing New Horizons.
It's
then.
like crack.
What a perfect contrasting thing because, the more I've learned about Animal Crossing New Horizons, which by all accounts is a beloved game, the more I just don't understand the appeal of this game. Can you try to get me to understand, Heath? Because in general, these more simulation-y-esque games are not my cup of tea. I understand Minecraft though, because it is this limitless toolbox of creativity you can explore. But to me, this just seems like a neutered Minecraft. Is that being unfair?
It is neutered in the sense that you are limited to whatever DIY recipes that the game has curated. That's all that you can craft. In Minecraft, you can do like circuits and you can do a number of like enchantment stuff if you really want to deep dive. But, same sort of thing. You got your workbench here. Granted, oh my gosh, Chris, you can't, the quality of life, you think Nintendo's got that polish, but you can't craft multiple items at once. You have to do them one by one. You can't pick up items, multiple items. You have to do them one by one. And so there is definitely a Stockholm Syndrome effect of I spent all my time, like this sort of sunk cost, I spent all my time picking up these weeds on my island so I can plant more of these flowers. So my flowers can cross-pollinate and I can get the special blue color flowers so that I can, decorate my house, and I'm gonna sell more stuff so I can get a bigger house because, gosh, Nate took a look at my island and he told me that I shouldn't put my knife set right above my bathtub. I didn't think of that, but I only have 2 rooms, so the bathroom kitchen is pretty busy. So you kind of need to get that dopamine hit of, oh man, if I can get enough money, I can make this whole room my gym.
I see.
And that's what entices you to log in every day is I can't wait it's April now, so all the new fish and new butterflies that I have yet to add to my museum are going to be floating around, and I got to go get them. Oh, snap, there's a present suspended by a balloon overhead. I got to shoot that down with my slingshot. Oh, it was 5 iron nuggets that I can put toward the new fishing rod because mine broke.
Okay. I guess my question is, but why?
So you can have a prettier house for when Bailey comes and visits, and she's like, oh, I want my sidewalks to look like that.
Okay, so it's kind of like the appeal of social media where you try to show off your life and how great it is?
It's Pimp My Island.
Pimp My Island, okay. I guess this is probably just not a game for me. Nothing about that tickles me in any way.
Fair enough. I've been enjoying it. Granted, it's sort of the thing where once you get all of the money you could ever want in GTA 5, that game just falls apart. Once you get all the guns in Red Dead, once you hunt all the animals you were bothered to hunt, I think once I'm flush with cash in Animal Crossing and I've built my mansion, that game will disappear unless you have friends that are like, hey, let's, the virtual meetup because we literally can't hang out in person.
How is the debt repayment to Tom Nook going? Or is that kind of just like this afterthought?
It's you said, at the forefront. I'm on my second house loan. It's currently an outstanding balance of 348,000 bells. I have 160,000 bells in my savings account. But we're waiting for tomorrow when the turnip market opens. I'm going to buy as many turnips as I can physically put in my pockets and then sell them at Nook's Cranny for like $400 a turnip because I'm going to show up every day for the AM price and the PM price and get the biggest bang for my buck when it comes to the stock market.
Sounds like you've got this figured out. Okay.
Yeah, it's gonna be momentous until it finally falls out of my favor.
Gotcha. Well, interesting. We both brought a game to talk about that one of us liked and the other did not.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
We got to see both sides of the same coin, I guess. I was going to mention Tabletop Simulator and how it's been a really nice substitute to game nights some more and how I'm appreciative of it. But we've already talked about the games we've been playing for over an hour, and there's a hefty amount of news to cover. So I suggest we take a break and hit the news.
Okay, I mean, we are still like mid-quarantine, so a hefty episode would not go unwelcome.
I don't think I have the stamina to discuss it. Let's just
all right.
Go on.
Dang. Chris, you need that Joe Rogan stamina. What is the longest episode of a podcast you yourself have listened to?
I rarely listen to a podcast in one sitting, though. So for all intents and purposes...
You finish an episode, right?
Yeah, I finish episodes, but they're broken up over the course of... probably 2 days or so.
Yeah. When you get in the car and when you gotta go to sleep, but
yeah,
like,
I've done some.
They're like 5 hours at most.
I've done 3-hour episodes. I don't think I've listened to one that was more than 4 hours.
Oh, Chris. Oh, you need to. That's how long they are. They're like multiple movies.
That's crazy.
No, because it's perfect. You get the same sort of like enthusiasm over the whole thing, and then it's perfect to fall asleep to.
Well, clearly my podcasting chops are just not that high a level yet.
We'll get them
I need to do more podcast grinding if I ever want to tackle a 4-hour episode.
Year 2. That's when it's happening.
All right, so here's where we would insert break music. Are you ready, Heath? I've got a fun one to start with.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, the year is 2019. News headlines are coming out. Chris, at the time, is reading them. World Health Organization has just declared video game addiction as an official mental health disorder. Jump to 2020. World Health Organization headlines are breaking. The WHO tells people to stay at home and play video games.
Oh my God, you're right. It's the most hypocrisy.
All right, so obviously there is some ironic comedic value there. I don't think the WHO is actually being a hypocrite here. I mean, video game addiction is very different from being quarantined and encouraging people not to go outside and to engage themselves with video games anyway. But the comedic part is not lost on me. Officially, the WHO is supporting a game industry initiative dubbed #PlayApartTogether, which is designed to both encourage people to play video games and to educate them about social distancing practices designed to slow the spread of the novel coronavirus. So, the contrast there is amusing. Do you have any thoughts on this, Heath?
Oh, it's funny. I mean, video game addiction, I forget which episode it was from. That was one of my favorite segments. It's fun to think the stats will balloon for this year, and rightly so. I mean, you can't go outside.
How the tables have turned.
Yeah, so it'll be fascinating once we are liberated, how they'll be like, stop playing games.
Yeah. I mean, for once, video games, instead of being the culprit for current bad event going on in the world, they're kind of the savior.
They're the panacea.
The panacea. And one silver lining to this whole epidemic we're currently facing, video games are the industry itself is going to weather this pretty well, I think. Maybe even benefit from it, at least. The sales that have come out for Doom and Animal Crossing New Horizons have been well beyond the company's expectations of how they were going to sell. I think they're getting the Corona bump, if anything. Which, I mean, if you're an executive at Nintendo, do you feel a little bit guilty that your record profits are on the back of so much world suffering? Maybe. But you're also helping to alleviate that suffering by giving people something to do.
Years later, Randy Pitchford's in a meeting. I don't know why I went with Randy Pitchford, but he's in a meeting and the board is like, Randy, if this game doesn't sell, we will become absolvent. And he's like, don't worry, guys. I got the perfect trick. And he sprinkles it into the water pipe.
The water supply.
Yeah. And then oh no, massive outbreak of Gearbox virus. And then the game sells $1 million or more than that.
I wasn't going to cover this news story, but Randy Pitchford is in the news this week around Gearbox denying big bonus checks to all of their employees lately. So yeah, not beneficial and glowing headlines Randy Pitchford finds himself caught up in.
Wah, wah.
Anyway, that's all I had about the World Health Organization, and they're encouraging people to play games at this point in history. Moving on, we have, I guess, maybe not the most surprising news, but big news nonetheless. The Last of Us Part 2 is delayed indefinitely, says Sony. This comes from official @PlayStation Twitter account. They say, update, SIE has made the difficult decision to delay the launch of The Last of Us Part 2 and Marvel's Iron Man VR until further notice. Logistically, the global crisis is preventing us from providing the launch experience our players deserve.
Oh, man. Iron Man VR was a part of your delay segment, right?
Yes, it was in my delay segment.
That segment has aged beautifully.
Like a fine wine.
It could not have been at a better time. That was in February, right?
I think that's true, yes.
Prophetic.
The Last of Us Part 2, which was on track to arrive in May, now no longer has a release date. We've got industry icon, video game journalist Jason Schreier tweeting out some more details. He says from developer sources he's heard from, The Last of Us Part 2 was still on track for May. The primary reason for the delay is the challenge of printing, shipping, and selling physical games right now.
Wow. Well, that seems like you could easily mitigate it.
Through a digital release, you mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it could still be delivered to people, I think, because you can't launch the game twice. I'm guessing Sony crunched the numbers, figured they lose out on too many physical game sales if they went with a digital-only route, and decided to delay it for that reason.
Okay.
If this pandemic was occurring, I don't know, 12 years in the future or so, and physical game sales are a ghost of their former selves, I'm guessing they would have just went ahead with the fully digital release only.
Yeah, cut their losses.
But for the time being, physical still demands too much influence over game sales, so it's been delayed. Down in the tweets where Jason Schreier was replying to people, it's worth noting someone asked, hey, are there any other companies you were expecting imminent delays from? And Jason replies with 3 words, all of them.
Yeah.
And this guy has a lot of connections. I think it's fair to say we're going to be seeing a whole host of delays pretty soon. Maybe even my beloved Cyberpunk 2077.
That's in September,
Who knows?
Though.
Yeah, it's in September. Maybe it misses 2020. I don't even know.
Ugh.
Yeah. It's a weird discrepancy where if developers can get their games out right now, presumably they're going to sell really well. But it's getting harder and harder to finish these games because of the transition to working remotely.
Our fantasy critic game is we could not have picked a more atypical year to do this.
Yeah. And we're going to get to that later in the episode when we check in for our quarterly fantasy publisher draft check-in, but stay tuned for that.
Okay.
I have a little more news, but is there anything you wanted to contribute to the conversation, Heath?
Well, are we going to mention that you called it with the Humble Bundle sale?
I mean, yeah, we could. How I was kind of making fun of the fact that this might be a great time for Steam to have a sale labeled around staying home inside or around COVID-19. And the madmen over at Humble Bundle did just that.
Mr. Bundle.
They released a bundle of games and other mixed media called Conquer COVID-19. It's $30. You get a lot of games, some of which are Mobius Tube's favorites, including Into the Breach, Hollow Knight, and Undertale. All of those are included in here. If you pay $30, you get a whole bunch of books, a whole bunch of other stuff. Oh, you get Super Hot as well, which I talked about last week. So yeah, there are definitely some quality titles in here. I'm probably not getting it just because I own a bunch of the ones I would want already. But yeah, it's interesting that they just leaned into the fact that this bundle is to help alleviate your boredom during the quarantine.
It still rolls off the tongue pretty rough if this gets worse.
Yes, yeah, it could be. You could definitely see this as being in poor taste, perhaps. I have one more news story I want to touch on, and you're going to love it, Heath, because it's another excuse to talk about one of your favorite now publishers in the gaming industry. We're talking about Epic Games creating a new publishing announcement partnership.
Oh, what? What?
Have you heard about this, Heath?
No, what? I mean,
so
if I did, what would I know about it?
Epic Games, creators of Fortnite and the Epic Games Store, is no longer content just being an online digital distribution platform for games. They are now dipping their toes into the realm of video game publishing that's actually financing games being made. Along with this announcement that came out on March 26th, they've announced their 3 initial partners. These are some of your faves, Heath. We have Remedy Entertainment, the creators of Control and Alan Wake. They've signed on for this. They have Playdead.
Inside
And Limbo. They've signed up for this. And they also have a studio called Gen Design, who you'll know immediately because they made Shadow of the Colossus and Eco and The Last Guardian.
I thought Team Eco made Eco.
Yeah, I thought that as well. Maybe this is like a splinter group of Team Eco, or maybe I just misunderstand who Team Eco is. But along with this announcement, they've revealed 3 perks of partnering with Epic Games, and that is they're offering
big money.
Big money. They are fully funding the projects. 100% of development costs, from developer salaries to go-to-market expenses such as QA, localization, and marketing,
merch,
are all being covered by Epic Games, which is pretty big. Another big thing is they're offering full creative freedom and ownership, which means all these developers get to retain 100% of their intellectual properties.
Oh, so you don't end up with the Calvin and Hobbes peeing graphics? That's the hallmark example of not owning your intellectual property.
I see.
I hate those. Does anybody not know what I'm talking about? How like Calvin and Hobbes, the lovable characters, the tiger and the guy. Who came up with that? Oh, it's Watson, right? The artist. And he didn't...
I don't know exactly.
He didn't have the legalese in order to retain the rights to his characters. And so there's like images of Calvin being like a brat as like bumper stickers. And it's the most childhood poison has ever been. So,
okay.
Yay for Epic.
The last bullet point is no less significant. Epic is giving 50-50 profit sharing with the developers. So once the game has recouped its initial development cost, all profits are split evenly between developer and publisher, which is apparently a better deal than usual.
Oh, I thought that was a worse deal.
No, it's better. I think.
Okay.
Otherwise they probably wouldn't be bragging about it. What's your knee-jerk reaction to Epic Games getting into publishing?
So now they're like actually Valve, because Valve publishes games, right?
Valve, they definitely publish like
their own
in-house games, yeah.
What's the most well-known publisher for like the lay person?
Probably
Mojang?
like no.
They're a developer.
Probably EA is probably the biggest, maybe.
Okay.
Either EA or Activision Blizzard is the biggest publisher, I think. Ubisoft is really big.
I mean, this is fine. I mean, I've never.
I'm a little torn. First of all, I like all three of these developers are really kind of like art house niche appeal kind of games that are really trying to do something artistic. And I'm really glad to see them get this opportunity to be so financially secure and well supported. But then
Oh no, Chris, you just said the words financially supported. You know what's going to happen? Play Dead is going to take their very minimalist, very simplified art style that has been seen in Limbo and Inside, and they're going to Nidhogg to it because they have money now.
No.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
I know that Nidhogg 2 is like not as pretty.
Nidhogg 1 is like these pixelated boys, and it's very retro, very minimalist because they didn't have the money to afford a proper art style. And that game was beloved and deserved a sequel, and the sequel got much more financial backing. And the guy, what's his name? Messhoff. He had the money to make the art style the way he envisioned. And it's this like Boogerman Simpsons. We talked about it on the podcast. It's like this grotesque burp snart body horror, just floppy men. It's like, was this your initial vision? Gross. So I don't want that to happen with my little Inside boy, who now that they have financial security.
I feel like that is unlikely to happen.
Yeah,
they know good aesthetics at Playdead. Obviously, this means these games will presumably be Epic Game Store exclusives. I just hope at some point in the future they migrate over to Steam.
Well, worry not, because as we've seen historically, Outer Wilds is coming to Steam.
Yes, finally, a year after its release in June, it'll find its way onto Steam, and I will finally play it, and we can talk spoilers.
Yeah, I mean, even if the pandemic goes into June, I will kidnap you and bring you to my house to play that game in front of me.
Okay,
I'll stay 6 feet apart. I'll be in a dark corner eating popcorn and being like, "Oh, you found it."
Something for all of our listeners to look forward to.
Yeah.
Okay, that was all the news I wanted to run through. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we have hot updates for the current standings of our video game fantasy publisher draft. See you then. Welcome back. Heath, it's been a little while. It's 3 months have gone by. An entire quarter of 2020 is in the history books.
Okay, when you say that, what dates mark the quarter? Is it like April 1st, July 1st? Throw me a bone here. What am I thinking of for quarters?
Every 3 months. It's just division.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Who would have thought 12 would be divisible? All right. All right. Hey, yes, indeed.
Okay. Back in early January, Heath and I decided to embark on a little competition where we would both take on the role of a fantasy video game publisher, trying to release the most critically acclaimed games all year long. Heath, what was the name you came up with for your company?
Yes, the competition was Heath versus Quintessential Chris Games.
That's right. These two rival publishers locked into a contest here. We both selected 12 games we thought were going to release in 2020. And we score more fantasy points depending on how well the game reviewed on OpenCritic. Anything above a 70 is positive points. Anything below a 70 is worth negative points. So this is our first quarterly check-in to see how things are going.
Oh my gosh, Chris. Remember when we were drafting these games and I was like, I want to pick the games early in the year so I can get a big lead on you.
That was a quote you had 1 or 2 times throughout that episode, yeah.
And it could not have pulled off more distinctly
in the opposite direction. Yeah. So without even realizing it, I kind of drafted like all the March games. In fact, 6 of the 12 games I've drafted already came out. They all released in March.
Wow.
And one of them is releasing imminently in April. That's the new Resident Evil 3 game. But anyway, let's run through our rosters, see where the standings are. All right, let's go through Heath's list first because that's faster. Heath, none of your games came out.
I mean, there's a little more time in the oven. That's all, baby.
If we were recording this a little bit later, like just a couple days later, you would have Final Fantasy VII Remake to discuss.
Ooh, my killer whale.
I think the review embargoes go up in literally 2 days or something, so we just missed that discussion topic, but that could come through for you big time, which you currently kind of need.
What are you talking about?
On Heath's docket, Heath drafted Hollow Knight Silksong, Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2, Ghost of Tsushima, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Windjammers 2, the unannounced Assassin's Creed 2020.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, Yakuza Like a Dragon, No More Heroes 3, 12 Minutes, the unannounced Horizon Zero Dawn sequel, and finally FIFA 21 rounds out the 12 games Heath has drafted. Over to me. Let's look through these. This is the order I drafted them in. The Last of Us Part 2. Hopefully that comes out now. Cyberpunk 2077. Resident Evil 3 was the third pick of mine, which has its review scores out. It came out with an 81, scoring me 11 points.
Oh.
I was super confident about Resident Evil 3. It was my third pick. It is actually my lowest scoring game so far.
Oh.
So, a little bit of a misjudgment there, but some more came through for me because the next one I drafted was Ori and the Will of the Wisps, getting a nice even 90 on OpenCritic.
Wow.
Awarding me 20 points. Then I picked up Doom Eternal with an 89 on OpenCritic.
Uh-huh.
Equivalent to 19 points. Then I grabbed Hades. Then I went for Halo Infinite, which there are rumblings of it not releasing this year anymore. So potentially a detriment to me there. Next, I got Neo 2, which released with an 85 on OpenCritic, equivalent to 15 points. So not too shabby. I thought it would do a little better than that, but I won't complain. I grabbed Total War Saga Troy. I grabbed MLB The Show 20, which is a baseball game that did come out. It got an 84, so pretty decent. That's 14 points. Then my 2 heaviest hitters. I picked up Animal Crossing New Horizons, actually.
Oh, you did.
Which I could not care less about, but critics loved it, and it got a 91 on OpenCritic.
Oh my god.
Awarding it 22 points. And finally, the most throwaway draft pick I had right at the end. I didn't even necessarily want this game on my roster. I drafted Half-Life Alyx.
Right.
Which sits at a 92 on OpenCritic, awarding me 24 points. Heath, you counterpicked Half-Life Alyx from me. Which means your current score right now is sitting at negative 24. My total score is sitting at positive 125 points.
Oh my god.
Currently, I'm crushing it. On the bright side, Heath, your other counter pick is Halo Infinite, and I am suddenly very suspicious if that comes out this year or not. So that could be a cool 0 points for you.
Sure.
Okay, so yeah, there's definitely a bit of a difference going on between our two scores right now. Half-Life Alyx, what have you heard about that game?
I mean, I've watched it relatively. It's still, oh man. You really can't watch it though. You have to experience it for yourself because the camera just flopping every which way. It's like a physicsy, puzzly thing.
People are talking about it with the level of reverence of talking about it like it's almost a Mario 64 moment. Do you know what I mean by that? How Mario 64 was like the first game to like really nail how a 3D camera should work in a polygonal 3D early N64 video game, and it was revolutionary. And Half-Life Alyx seems like it's doing a similar thing but for VR. The thing that about Half-Life Alyx that has impressed me the most that I've heard so far is that you've got kind of a limited inventory, but people just like pick up ammo and grenades, put them in a bucket, and literally just carry the bucket on their side along with them throughout the game. That is like supplementing their inventory system because it's just such a physics-based game, and you literally carry things with you. It is crazy. What a realistic simulation of just like having two hands in a physical space and carrying objects along with you. And how like when you actually reload your weapon, and this game is kind of like a horror game. There are stressful components in here, and you're feeling the stress, and you're reloading your shotgun shell by shell, and you get nervous, and you drop a bullet, and you actually bend down to pick it back up and try to get it back in your gun, and then cock it. It's wow. Are you just as impressed by me, by the kind of things Half-Life Alyx is pulling off, or is this Chris ranting about kind of mundane things?
No, I mean, yeah, I appreciate.
Like I said, talking about this stuff probably doesn't do it justice, since it's a VR game.
I mean, it's momentous in the same way that like the invention of concrete was momentous. I mean, I appreciate it for what it is. It's still like a gray slurry in my aesthetically. I need to see it as like a skyscraper. Did that work?
I'm sure it made sense to someone listening. However, things might not be looking super hot for you right now, Heath.
Super hot.
Here's your chance to turn it around, because baked into this fantasy critic website we're using to conduct this draft, there is a bidding mechanic where we can acquire more games as the year goes on, which might be a slightly risky endeavor with how fluid release dates are right now. But I'm on the website. Here, let me send you the link. We both have a budget of $100 to spend to acquire new games. One thing we have to decide right here and now is what limit do we want to put on number of new games that can be acquired?
Unlimited.
I was thinking maybe 8 to supplement our already 12 to make it like a nice even 20.
Oh.
What are your thoughts on that?
Sure, yeah.
So that way the initial draft is still pretty meaningful, since that's more than half of our potential games, but you can still come back with 8 more. So there will be another quarterly check-in in the middle of the year, and then a final quarterly check-in in the fall, where we revisit this draft. And those will be our 2 more opportunities to put bids on games and acquire them. But this is the first one. That means if you were to acquire 8 more games for your docket, on average, you'd be spending $12.5 per game. So that's like the average.
Right.
We're going to open it up right now. You can nominate a game for bidding and your initial bid. If I want it more than you, I can raise the bid. We can keep counter bidding until someone finally yields.
Okay.
At which point, whoever the highest bidder is will lose that set amount of money from their $100 budget, and that game will be added to their docket.
Take me to the bidding screen.
Sure. And remember, as the year goes on, maybe some really hot ticket items will get announced. So you want to save some open slots for that opportunity.
Right. I mean, if I had to do a bid, I would do The Pathless.
The Pathless.
I will bid $7.
Does The Pathless stand out to you because its estimated release date is early 2020?
I mean, that you got to take that into account.
I know actually nothing about this game.
Sold.
I'm gonna do a little search just to see what it looks like.
Nah, just look at a Google image and make your choice.
The Pathless. Okay, it's got. Okay, I think I remember at least hearing this game get announced.
Sheik is the main character.
Yeah. All right. Your initial bid was $7 for The Pathless.
Yeah.
I do not counterbid, so you can proceed
Sold.
with acquiring The Pathless for $7. Should we continue on?
Sure.
Okay. I've got one I want to put up for bidding, and that would be Baldur's Gate 3. I want to put that up for auction.
That game already came out.
No, it didn't.
Oh, I'm thinking of Banner Saga.
Baldur's Gate 3. It's being developed by Larian Studios, the guys behind Divinity Original Sin. I think they make very high quality work. I am under the assumption this will turn out great. Release date is listed as TBA, which maybe makes me a little bit nervous, but I will bid a very standard $13 for Baldur's Gate 3.
I will counterbid for
snap.
for $16.
Wow. Okay.
I want
I'm just
it.
jotting this down in case we have to enter it manually. All right, so you've raised the price of Baldur's Gate 3 to $16.
You're gonna have to do better than that, Chris.
I will pay $20 for Baldur's Gate 3.
Fine. You can have it.
That's 1/5 of my budget, but I acquired Baldur's Gate 3 for $20. I only have $80 left to spend for the whole year. Do you have any more nominations, Heath?
I don't have a current bid.
Nothing you want to nominate at this time?
I don't give a crap.
Okay, I'm going to nominate another one then, which you can counterbid if you so choose. This is a very recent announcement, which leads me to believe I think it'll probably come out in 2020. I want to nominate Rogue Legacy 2.
Whoa, what color is it?
It's pixelated. It's about, Rogue Legacy. It's a rogue-like game with a knight traversing through a castle, and every time you die, a new ancestor or a new part of his lineage is who you play as in the next following run.
Oh.
And you inherit some of their traits. It's a cool game.
It's Wargroovian.
Some of the pixel art maybe looks like that. It's more of a 2D platformer though.
Okay.
I played the first one. I really dug it. It's been a long time since the first one came out. I think there could be some promising aspects to the sequel. I will bid $14 for Rogue Legacy 2.
You sucker. I'm gonna bid 19.
You bid 19?
Yeah, this looks great, and it's actually gonna come out.
I don't think I can swing that much. I'm gonna give it to you. You can acquire Rogue Legacy 2 for $19.
Hot dog.
And assuming you still don't have anything you want to nominate, I have one more I wanted to bring up for the discussion table.
What's up?
let's nominate Wasteland 3. A sequel to this kind of computer role-playing game series, kind of inspired by Fallout, but like the older Fallouts, Fallout 1 and 2.
That's gonna stink.
Oh, okay. I'm also a little hesitant about it, which is why I'm only bidding a paltry 7 for it.
Yeah, that'll go to you.
Okay, I acquire Wasteland 3 for $7.
Oof, what a waste. Land.
So, at this time, there's nothing else I really want to bid on. That's also the case for you?
Correct.
So, in summary, Heath has acquired The Pathless for $7, and then Rogue Legacy 2 for $19. For Chris, I grabbed Baldur's Gate 3 for $20 and Wasteland 3 for $7. So we basically spent the same amount. I spent $1 more than you. And those games will be added to our respective rosters. We now both have 14 games in our dockets. We can max out at 20, but we're both keeping those 6 slots available for new game announcements throughout the year. And that has been this edition of the quarterly check-in for the Fantasy Critic Video Game Publisher Draft.
What's the forecast for points? Like, do we expect by next quarter to have half of our points, arguably? So you're hoping to break 200.
Yeah, that would be nice.
I'm hoping to catch up and be in the black.
Right. You have unlimited potential right now, Heath. We have no idea what your scores are going to be.
Okay, but to be competitively viable, I want to be in the triple digits.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so next check-in should be even more interesting than this one. All right. So that was fun. We will move on now to the email section, which we have an email this week from a listener you actually already mentioned during the Animal Crossing segment. This is from Nate. You too can write into us just like Nathan did and send us an email by sending an email to the following address, mobiustubespodcast@gmail.com.
That's mobiustubespodcast@gmail.com.
And this email comes in from Nate with a subject line, chasing my own heart right here. How much of a degenerate gamer are you? Nate says, hello, Heath.
Yeah.
Back at it again with another spicy email. During these times, I imagine video game playing is at an all-time high for most of us. I know I've been playing a lot more games, being inside all the time now. I can sit behind a TV or a computer for nearly as long as I used to these days, but I remember being able to marathon through video games on weekends with ease in my college years. My question for you guys is, what is the longest time you have played video games straight, without doing anything else, besides eat, bathroom breaks, etc.? And what game was it that you subjected your degenerate self to? For me, I have probably played video games for 12 hours straight as the longest streak, waking up and doing nothing but playing RuneScape for the entirety of the day. God only knows how much I have played that game, and I am glad there is not a built-in playtime tracker. Stay safe, y'all. Nathan.
Chris, do you have anything that jumps to mind?
Yeah, one thing did jump to mind, and it's a slightly altered version of Nathan's question, because when it comes to binging video games, I am not a sprinter. I am a marathon runner. So those legendary 12-hour sessions, I am nowhere close to them, even really at any time in my life. I have never even approached that. But I definitely have done a marathon. It was just in a little bit more controlled bursts. And the game for peak degeneracy for me would have been Persona 5. And I attribute that to how well paced that game is, how every single day on your calendar effortlessly flows into the next one, and it's just impossible to put down. I did not have like a crazy binge single session, but I played that game like a full-time job for 3 weeks straight to complete it. I was putting in about 6 hours a day for 3 weeks. I was clocking in like 40-hour work weeks into Persona 5. At the time, it was a finals week of college where I had no finals, and that segued into the first week or two of summer break where I had no responsibilities. That was how I was able to clock in this astounding 120 hours of Persona 5 in 3 weeks. That was probably the most condensed and consistent game playing binging I have ever done, although it was not literally one 12-hour session like Nathan was saying. I was probably doing like 3 2-hour sessions per day for just that marathon 3 weeks of time. And that was Persona 5 for me.
And that's fairly recent.
Yeah, that was 2017.
When I think of binging moments, I am brought back to my youth. I'm pretty sure that I crushed some Pokemon for extended periods of time. Even plugging it in when the battery was low to play it on the charger. And then back in high school, when Batman first came out, I dedicated my waking hours to that. And assuredly, the heyday of Modern Warfare's multiplayer kept me awake at night. But if we go more recent, I think as a consequence of having this show, I played Batman Arkham Knight and Disco Elysium for extended periods, maybe 12 hours. I definitely didn't.
Yeah.
I definitely didn't leave the house. So if I wasn't playing the game, I was either eating or pooping. So make of
That's
that what you will.
crazy. Wow. Yeah. I remember you telling me about that, and I almost like did a double take in disbelief. Yeah, I can't consume a game that way. It does not make me physically feel well.
Well, here's my question. What is there even to do in RuneScape that would require that amount of time? I never played RuneScape. My brother did. What about you, Chris?
Yeah, I am not a RuneScape expert. I never got bitten by the RuneScape bug, but I definitely know friends who were into it.
What do you even do? Like, the graphics were so bad. And granted, it was free, right?
I think it was.
So that's, you're able to tolerate that. Nate's made of stronger stuff than me, because I feel like I would be checked out after like the first hour.
Yeah. Well, he was probably playing it like back in the RuneScape heyday when it was like super popular.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. So I hope we impressed you with our respective levels of degeneracy there, Nate. Here's a question for you, Heath. We have another email, but it's related to the cardboard corner. So do we want to tackle it here in the email section, or as we transition to our favorite cardboard box?
I mean, I don't know what you're talking about with any kind of corner. After the episode ends, it's over. I mean, sometimes I'll like to leave like 15 minutes of dead air at the end of the episode, but that's just my own audio tendencies.
That's your own eccentricity. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's save whatever you're talking about for whatever you're talking about.
Okay. Then in that case, we have entered the closing statements of the episode. Thank you so much for listening. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed this one, despite all the Assassin's Creed Odyssey bashing that happened up front, which is a game I'm still really enjoying. But different strokes for different folks. If you want to send us an email just like Nate did and have it read on the air, which we guarantee to read every listener email we receive, once again, the address is mobiustubespodcast@gmail.com.
Chris, what are you going to be doing for the rest of the between now and next episode?
I will be playing a lot of games. I've got some. I'm going to be continuing to play AC Odyssey. I am hesitant to bring it up on the show at this point, based on how you're going to rake me over the coals if I do.
Oh, I'm clamoring for it, though.
So I might be dipping my toes into some other games for variety's sake. That's what I have planned.
Well, I am likely to continue my Animal Crossing, and to mitigate the lack of quality of life features in that, I might throw open a little HBO on the side, because as of yesterday, HBO is free to a certain extent. Their most well-known series, Sopranos and Veep and The Wire and Silicon Valley, are just available for streaming on account of the pandemic. So good on them. And I also like finished Better Call Saul season 4. This is becoming timestamp guy. This is the Heath's TV segment now.
I like how you called out timestamp guy as if that's not just me who does it.
Chris, I don't know what you're talking about. We are the stars, and all the heavy lifting goes to our interns. No, I've been watching tons of TV, and my hopes with HBO being free was like, oh, now's my chance to watch Game of Thrones and come at you with that.
Oh.
But Game of Thrones is not free.
It's behind the paywall.
Correct. They wouldn't let their golden goose out. But that's sort of been what I've been doing. Dude, I love Better Call Saul, the Breaking Bad spinoff series, even despite its awful title. The title is it's so hard to get friends to watch it, calling it what it is. You know, it's as if you called the Witcher series like toss a coin.
I see. Hey, I meant to include this during the fantasy draft segment. We still have not assigned any stakes to this competition officially. Has anything come to mind?
Right, because I did say, we're going to come up with a perfect punishment come April.
I bet you want to, reel it back considering your current standings.
Yeah, just a slap on the wrist. No, it'll be pretty good. I don't know. I would do we make the opponent cosplay as a character that the winner likes and film them going to UBCon or something like that?
That sounds like way too much effort.
It could be fun though. You don't want to see me as Spyro wishing for death. Although UBCon is this month. It would have been.
I think so.
Under different circumstances. So
we could assign a different punishment depending on who wins. I could say Heath plays more AC Odyssey.
No.
Just kidding.
No.
I wouldn't do that to you.
I'd rather alphabetize the phone book.
There are games I would prioritize way higher that you need to play than AC Odyssey. Speaking of which, how's the whole dipping into the other person's assigned reading for the year going? Neither of us have brought in any of our assigned games to the show.
Oh, is there any reason you're bringing this up now?
We're just talking about bets and stakes that we have not fulfilled so far. We still have 9 months out of the year to do it, but I have not brought Fallout 4 or Roller Coaster Tycoon. What Planet Zoo? What game
Zoo,
did you give me?
Fallout 4, and then the other one.
And The Fall?
Oh yeah, The Fall. Oh my gosh. Yo, you know what?
I have not played.
You want another game that I want you to play?
What's that?
Okay, here we go. This is terrible for the timestamp guy. We are revisiting the Game Awards predictions consequences. I assigned Chris Planet Zoo, Fallout 4, and The Fall to play one of them over the course of 2020. I am now I'm using my podcast privileges to switch out Planet Zoo with Splinter Cell Chaos Theory.
Okay.
I was
Interesting.
absolutely going to buy it for you as a gift and be like, as part of like this whole, Assassin's Creed's no longer stealth. Hitman is kind of quirky. I initially I was gonna get you Splinter Cell Conviction, which I've mentioned before, in the context of like Edith Finch. But I want, because like they like display text in a fun way.
Oh, that's right. I remember that.
Yeah. That connection not at the forefront of your brain when it comes to games?
It isn't.
Night in the
for whatever
Woods?
reason.
Anyway, Splinter Cell Chaos Theory, albeit older, is a masterpiece according to reliable sources. So that's going to take the slot of the joke that was Planet Zoo for the 2019 Game Awards predictions things. So they enter that into your lexicon. It's older, and I would peruse the Steam review, recommendation section. That's like, how does it run on a PC? Is it buggy? Because you're entering that territory. But to answer the question you have not asked yet, I have not forgotten about your assignments.
Okay, speaking of masterpieces, you've got some masterpieces in front of you.
All right, settle down.
Because I assigned you The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, one of the Dishonored games, your choice, and Nier Automata. I'm assuming you're probably going to do the former two.
I will confirm nor deny.
Okay. There's a remaster of the original Nier coming out. We didn't cover that in the news. It wasn't really noteworthy. But for the 10-year anniversary of Nier, the 2010 game, it's getting a remake, and it looks cool.
Wait, Nier is getting a remake?
Yeah.
A remaster?
Not Nier Automata.
Okay, yeah. All right.
All right, so this closing segment has dragged on a little too long, but we
sorry,
covered the basics.
Timestamp guy.
Yeah, whoever that is. Okay, so it was another fun episode, Heath. Let's definitely end the episode now with the outro music. I'm going to get some water, and then we can do Cardboard Corner.
What? All right. I will be here rustling, smacking the walls of the cardboard. Here in the Cardboard Corner, we like to talk about the unplugged, the unblinking, the enjoyment of board games. We, in fact, are going to play board games on Tabletop Simulator, but that engine is not for discussion here. We are going to discuss another game.
Yeah, and actually, you don't see this coming, Heath, because we have an email to cover in the Cardboard Corner section this week. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. This comes in from prolific Mobius Tube's listener, Nathan.
Double duty.
The subject of this email is Board Game Starter Pack. He says, "Hello, Heathrus."
Is that the other? Yeah, that's the other portmanteau.
It's the other combinant portmanteau, yeah. Hey, it's been a while. Fancy seeing you in this cardboard box here.
Oh my gosh, he's right here.
Yeah, he's right here. Quite the cozy setup, if I must say. So cozy, in fact, I might make one for myself.
Oh, nice. Oh, this is wholesome.
As someone who has 0 board games and would like to start a new board game group, what 3 board games would you suggest would be a good starting point for a collection? He would like it if we could pick relatively unique games so that they aren't already games his friends have probably already purchased. Thank you. And that's from Nate.
Okay.
So, I haven't had a ton of time to mull this over, but we should both come up with a list of 3 games we think would be good for just someone starting a board game group. And, we probably want to cover, we want to consider having different player counts and different types of games, and also not the most super mainstream things. I'm not going to suggest Settlers of Catan or Cards Against Humanity because most people probably already have access to those games.
And also because Cards Against Humanity is utter garbage that has been overrated to the point of absurdity.
I would say, its reputation is too inflated, I think. Yeah.
If you have a friend come over with Cards Against Humanity, you shut the door.
Jeez, okay.
Yeah.
It's your house, your rules.
But you take the box from them and then shut the door and then dispose of the box.
A funeral pyre, maybe.
Yeah.
I need to look in my closet and think about this question for a second. Be right back.
All right. Thump, thump, thump on the cardboard. All right. Listen up, fans. The 3 categories of games that you want are social deduction, a cooperative element, whether that is team-based or Pandemic, the board game, and a economy, build up your infrastructure. I was actually going to mention Splendor as being among this economy-based games, because you want a game where the people who excel at sleuthing and misdirection can have fun, and the game where people are highly logistical and can identify patterns for success in resource management can have fun. And then you want a game where, okay, what if there's a person who is just bad at games and is neither of the 2 that I just mentioned? You want a game where you can sandwich them on a team with some killers and give them a sense of validation in a team-based orientation that doesn't have combat necessarily, unlike the second one that I mentioned. That's resource management. That one, in fact, it probably should have combat just to give an edge to the people who are able to cultivate more efficiently. The social deduction one, I'm pretty sure is going to be Resistance. It could be Coup. It could be Secret Hitler. That I'll leave up to you. I think Resistance, and I also mentioned Werewolf earlier, you kind of ought to go with Resistance. And then if we go over to the economy side with the resource management, because Catan is already disqualified, probably not Ticket to Ride, but that's not necessarily resource management, but it is risk reward, Eurocentric.
Hello.
Oh, he's back. We've been discussing, or at least I've been train of consciousness at the microphone. So
Interesting. Well, that'll be a fun Easter egg for me to listen to later. Or at least the timestamp guy will listen to it. Have you already spelled out all of your thoughts for the 3 games you'd recommend?
Yeah, they know my thoughts. Yeah.
Okay.
I broke it down systemically.
Just so I know, what 3 did you pick?
Well, you have to have a social deduction game. And then you have to have, because you have to have a social deduction game so that the people who are good at misdirection and subtlety can have fun. And then you need a economy, logistical, resource management game, probably with some combat so that the efficiency engine types can have fun. And then you want a cooperative game, and that can either be a Codenames or a Pandemic, for the people who are neither good at social deduction or engine building, logistics, and you can just sandwich them on a team with those killers and they can have fun by proxy.
So did you cite an example for the social deduction or the crunchy economic game?
Yeah, so I'm hard pressed to replace Resistance with Werewolf or Secret Hitler or Coup, because I think Resistance is probably, like you said, niche enough that all of his friends have yet to play it ubiquitously, but accessible enough for it to be included on a starter pack.
Okay. And what was your example of an economic game you might recommend?
Well, I mean, I was going to say like, Cash and Guns might be a little too aggressive, even though I said that there ought to be some combat in the economy game, just so that the people who are good at managing resources in the form of like bullet cards can excel. But that's also social deduction. So maybe even we sort of like kill two games with one gun and put Cash and Guns in place of a deduction-y economy, because it's kind of the trifecta.
It's definitely like a bluffing game. Yes, there's not so much sussing out who has what identity, but yeah, you are trying to make judgment calls about what do they intend to do here? Are they going to actually shoot me, or is this a bluff? Yeah.
So I was reluctant to put Cash and Guns in my starter pack. And then I was thinking like Ticket to Ride, but that's not engine building at all.
It seems you're a little stuck on this conundrum. I have come up with the definitive list of 3 games to start your board game collection. I will go in order of increasing your player count to cover all different sorts of situations.
Oh.
Starting down with a low group of people. This game, it'll be great for a 2 to 4 player session. It's one we were going to cover this game on just a regular episode of Cardboard Corner this week. The game is Splendor. I would recommend that to start a collection. It plays equally well with 2, 3, or 4 players. The theme is you're a gem merchant trying to have the best gem business in the Renaissance. The theme isn't super important. What's cool is, though, what represents the gems in the game are some really heavy, weighted, almost like poker chip-like tokens that feel nice to hold and tinker with. If that was not in the game, I would probably enjoy it like 25% less. These are some nice gem tokens you get to use. It's a race to 15 points. The mechanics that are in play are like the perfect introduction to engine building, because you are collecting a set of tokens, just picking up these gem tokens on your turn of various colors. You cash them in to buy cards, and the cards give you permanent discounts for the rest of the game. As you acquire more and more cards, your discount just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and suddenly you can afford crazy expensive cards. And that ramping up, that progression, is a very satisfying experience, especially if you haven't encountered it in a board game before. That's why I think Splendor is a great intro to engine building / set collection efficiency games.
I love Splendor.
Yeah, we're big fans of Splendor over here at Mobius Tubes. Mm-hmm. Game number 2 is going to give you some more variety. This game covers the 2 to 5 player range. 5 players is that tricky number where it's not quite party game territory, but you're suddenly ruling out some games that cap at 4 players. The game I recommend as number 2 is kind of a Chris favorite, not universally known or beloved maybe. It's called Through the Desert. This is a Reiner Knizia game from the 90s. So it's an older design, but I think it stands up well. You can convince your friends to play it because it's immediately visually appealing. You have these pastel-colored camels that you're going to get to play with, and this desert of hexagons covered with plastic palm trees. It's really pretty, I think. It's not super complex. Basically, your turn is just placing 2 camels on the board. But while Splendor was a fairly isolated kind of, there's not too much interaction going on. Maybe someone buys a card that you wanted right before you did. Through the Desert is an interactive game. where you're carving out sections of the desert by placing these trains of camels. And it's almost got an element of like territory control to it, because if you prioritize one section of the board, laying down all of your camels really fast over there to carve out a block of the desert that belongs to you, no one else will be able to get in that. But it's a game of like weighing the priorities of where am I going to be placing camels this turn versus another turn. It's a cool abstract puzzle game.
I don't like it, Through the Desert.
What do you dislike the most about Through the Desert?
I will play 100 games of Splendor before I play Through the Desert. I think it's just very hard for me to like see the forecast of which tiles are going to be valuable and how to prioritize certain chains, especially when things get congested. I'm trying to think of like other games where I can perfectly see. Oh, I mean, I have a perfect appraisal of the properties in For Sale. I know exactly which ones to do. But in this game, it's like, I'm going to put a green one next to the tree.
Okay. How many games of Through the Desert have you played? Can you remind me?
Fewer than 10, greater than 5.
Really? Okay. So, yeah, Heath is providing a counterpoint. Maybe not universally beloved. I included it because I think it's visually appealing. You'll immediately capture someone's interest. It covers that 5-player weird area. And also it has an element of some cutthroat competition to it, because you can like cut someone off at the knees if you extend your trail of camels too close to them. So yeah, I wanted a game with some element of conflict to it without being overly complex.
I would rather be actually cut through the knees.
Wow. Okay.
I would rather actually walk through a desert.
My final game to round out your collection is the big party game that'll cover a large group of people that you have over.
Fight Club.
I'm cheating. I'm putting in 2. I'm either throwing code names here, or if you want, it's slightly trickier to teach sibling, Decrypto would also fit this bill.
Oh, I love this starter pack.
These are both clue-giving word deduction games. I'd say the pros and cons on weighing which one to buy. Codenames is faster to teach, probably easier to grasp the concept. It doesn't really matter how big a group you have. If you have 10 people, 12 people, maybe even like 14 people, you just divide up the teams evenly and Codenames will support it. Since everyone's kind of like just having a conversation at the same time, trying to figure out what clue the spy master is giving you. Decrypto, not a super complex game, probably a little more complex than Codenames. I like it a little bit more. Also, I feel like Decrypto totally supports 6 people really well, supports 8 people really well. 10 people might be pushing it, so if you anticipate having a huge group of people, maybe lean towards Codenames. But I like the kind of hint giving in Decrypto a little bit more, so maybe do some research when deciding which one to get.
Very well said. Yeah, I wouldn't change a thing. That was great.
So those are my span of games that cover any player count you could foreseeably have. And on the low player counts, you have Splendor, Through the Desert, and then as soon as you hit party game territory, hit them with Codenames or Decrypto. That would be my recommendation for starting a board game collection. And Heath had some valuable input as well.
Though all of your games, Chris, with the exception of like Codenames, are like super niche.
Okay. I think Splendor has some, as far as niche games go, Splendor's pretty well known.
No.
But yeah, Through the Desert, pretty niche. Decrypto, pretty niche.
Yeah, good picks.
So I hope you got some utility out of this segment, Nate. Next week, we'll go back to more regularly programmed Cardboard Corner content.
Very good.
Thanks for recording the episode with me, Heath.
Oh, yeah. Take care, Chris. You drink some water.
I will. I'll drink lots of water. I'll see you on Tabletop Simulator later on.
Very cool. See you there.